You cannot save your way to wealth. Now, this is a difficult concept for many of us to understand. And I think the reason why is because many of us grow up with this money myth that if you can save your money, well, you can become wealthy one day. If you save 10% of your income, you are doing the right thing to become wealthy. And that's sort of true, but kind of a lie at the same time. And the reason why is because your savings are losing value to inflation each and every day. And this was going on before the pandemic happened in 2020 as well. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a story because my channel, The Minority Mindset, first became popular from a video that I released in 2016. All right, remember that year. And in that video, I talked about how if you kept your savings in the bank, your savings were losing 2 to 3% of its value to inflation because back in 2016, in the United States, inflation was between the 2 to 3%. Now, back then, banks were paying 0.05% on your interest. And so in the video, I said, essentially, if you have money in the bank, you're losing 2 to 3% of its value. If you have $1 million in the bank, you would lose $20,000 to $30,000 worth of buying power in just 1 year, even though you thought you were doing the right thing by saving your money in this safe place called the bank. And then this video went on to become viral, probably because that concept of inflation was a very misunderstood topic. Then fast forward a couple of years, and I started to walk around the streets asking people about inflation. This is, again, before the pandemic. I would walk around places in the United States, from Washington, D.C., to New York, to Chicago, to California, and I would ask people about inflation. And some people would say that inflation is what happens when you put too much air in your tires. Some people would say that inflation is all these wild things that has nothing to do with finance. And that was where it really clicked that a lot of us don't have the basic level of financial education. Most of us are taught that if you want to become financially successful, just save a little bit of money. But you have to save your money strategically if you want to become wealthy. That's why the purposes of this lesson and this quest is not just to spend less, but the purpose is now to spend less strategically. That way you can have more wealth, because wealth is built through your assets. Now, if you're already investing your money, if you're a business owner and you feel like this is a lot of just basic stuff, I want you to stick with me, because every lesson that we're going through in this quest is going to build on top of one another. And then in the second part of this quest, we're going to dive even deeper into the specifics of investing your money. So stick with me as we go through these lessons, because these are designed in a specific way to build on top of one another. That way you can really have the right financial education, lay the foundation the right way, that we can go out and become wealthy. So if you want to become wealthy, you cannot just save all of your money. The reason why is because, well, inflation is going to eat away at the value of your savings. And that's the reason why $1,000 today cannot buy you what $1,000 could back in 1970, let alone the year 2022. And that's where now you need your money to be able to grow. And this brings me to a concept that I wish we were taught in school. Because if you want to win financially, you have to understand how our economic system works. In the United States and many other countries around the world, we follow something called a capitalist system. And in a capitalist system, there are two things that you have to understand. Number one, how do you earn money? And number two, how are you taxed? Now, think about your education of earning money. What are we taught? Well, our entire education system is built around training people to go out and get a good job. This is called earning money from your labor. Whether you're a cashier at McDonald's, whether you're a doctor, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a high-paid executive or an athlete, you are now earning a salary for your labor. Maybe it's an hourly wage, but you're getting a wage for your labor. And maybe it's a really high wage, maybe it's a low wage. You're getting a wage for your labor. But in a capitalist system, there's more than one way to get paid. You can get paid from your labor, and you can get paid from your capital, meaning from your money. Now, again, our entire education system is designed to get people to earn money from their labor. But what wealthy people want to do in a capitalist system, meaning if you are in a capitalist country, you have to understand this, wealthy people want to earn money from their capital more than their labor. And the reason why is because there's a limit to how much you can earn, but there's no limit to how much you can own. So if you can own more assets, you can effectively earn more money, and there's no limit to how much you can do that way because, well, When it comes to you earning money from your labor, there's a limit to how much you can work. Nobody can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but your money can. And this is why wealthy people want to own more assets. But it gets a little bit more interesting when you add in taxes as well. Now, every country around the world is going to have their own variation of this. But in the United States, you have kind of three general buckets of tax groups. And I'm telling this as an attorney who's not your attorney. But in the United States, you have three general buckets of incomes. You have your earned income, you have portfolio income, and then you have passive income. Your earned income is the money you make from your job. Your portfolio income is the money you make from things like your stock market investments. And then your passive income is the money you make from things like your rental properties. And do you want to know which income comes with the highest tax rates and the lowest tax write-offs? Well, if you're thinking your earned income, you're correct. The money you make from your job comes with the highest tax rate and the lowest tax write-offs, which means if you can earn more money from your investments, not only can you potentially get a lower tax rate, but you could potentially get even more tax write-offs, which means less taxable income. Versus when you make money from your job, especially in the United States, you're paying taxes before you even see the money. That tax is taken out of your paycheck. But this is where, if you understand the system, and we're going to go more into this in the second part of this quest, but this is where, if you understand the economic system, you will have the tools that you need in order to actually win in the system. Because at the end of the day, if you want to win, you got to understand the rules. And most people are playing the game of money without the rules. It's like playing football without a helmet on. You have to know how the game of money works. And that means understanding, well, our system creates inflation. How does that affect us? And then on top of that, we are in a capitalist system. So we just talked about how a capitalist system works. And in the beginning of this lesson, I talked about why you can't save your way to wealth. But now let's tie this together. Because in this capitalist system, there are three general players. You have the B, the I, the C, the businesses, the investors, and the consumers. The businesses are, well, the entrepreneurs that are creating the businesses. The investors are people that invest into the businesses, they invest into the assets. So many times investors are not entrepreneurs, they're not creating the businesses, they just own a piece of the businesses through their capital. And then you have the consumers, the people that spend money. And guess what? Everybody is a consumer. Rich people, poor people, middle class people, everybody is a consumer. Well, our economic system is designed to benefit the B and the I, the business owners and the investors, more than the consumers. And so this is where, well, what are we taught? We are taught to be consumers. We're never taught to be investors. We're never taught to be business owners. But if you want to win from the way that our economic system works, you have to shift from just being a C to an I or a B. Now let's put this all together. See, our system creates inflation, which is why saving your money is not the best path to becoming wealthy. There is a right way to save, but you shouldn't just save all of your money. And the reason why is because of inflation. But what is inflation? Well, inflation comes from the word inflate. And inflation has been around for a long time. This isn't something that just started after the pandemic. What are you inflating when you have inflation? Well, we're inflating the monetary supply, the amount of dollars out there. So now if the government is working with the central banks to increase the amount of dollars out there, what does that mean? That means consumers have more money to spend because, well, when you have inflation, wages go up, costs go up, and you would hope that people have more money to spend. I mean, that's why wages today are higher than what they were in the early 1970s, not necessarily adjusted for inflation, but on a nominal basis, the people who are working today are earning more dollars than they were back in the early 1970s. So now consumers have more money to spend, which means you have more money to spend into the businesses, right? Now you go and buy groceries, you go and buy a vacation, you go and buy really anything. It's going to cost you more money today than 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. So if you spend more dollars, who is that benefiting? Well, that benefits now the B and the I, because now businesses get to sell their products for more money, and the investors who invest into these businesses own a piece of those profits. So when you have inflation, it benefits the people who understand this economic system. And that means it benefits the B and it benefits the I, but inflation disproportionately hurts the C. It disproportionately hurts the consumers, and most people are just consumers. And in this economic system, well, anybody can be an investor. Anybody can be a business owner. Now, some of you are going to want to go out and start a business. Others of you are going to say, screw that. I don't want to be an entrepreneur. That's too much risk. It's too much whatever. I don't want to do that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being an employee. There's nothing wrong with being an entrepreneur. But the key is, how do you win financially as an entrepreneur? How do you win financially as an employee? This is now about how do you use your money as a tool. But in order to be able to use your money as a tool, you have to understand how our economic system works, which means you cannot just spend all of your money. You have to use your money correctly. And this is where the extent of most people's financial education is: just save a little bit of money, because if you can save your money, then you're doing the right thing. And it's better to save than to spend all of your money. But if you're just saving all of your money, your savings are being eaten away by inflation, which is why now you need to figure out, how can you actually grow that money? How can you put this money to work to grow it? And that's what we're going to be going over through this quest. So in this economic system, you cannot save your way to wealth because your savings are being eaten away by inflation. Why? Well, because the government and our central banks are working to create more inflation by spending more money. However, we live in something called a capitalist system, which means there's two ways that you can get paid. You can get paid from your labor, and you can get paid from your capital. We're all taught to get paid from our labor, but what wealthy people want to do is they want to get paid from their capital. And the reason why they want to get paid from their capital more than the labor is because, number one, there's no limit to how much you can own, but there's a limit to what you can do. And second, because of the tax code, because our tax code incentivizes you to earn money from your investments. And this is where, once you start to understand this, you'll understand why this level of financial education is so important. And we're going to be going through this lesson by lesson, going deeper every lesson. And especially into the second part, we're going to be going deeper into how do you actually put your money to work. What I'd like you to do now is think about the B and the I and the C. Where are you right now? Are you just a consumer? Are you an investor? Are you a business owner? And now, where do you want to be? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you want to be an investor? Write this down in your journal. And the second thing I want you to think about now is, how are you playing the game of money in this economic system? And where can you see the most benefit? Are you utilizing the tax code? Are you utilizing the different ways of earning money instead of just earning money from your labor? I want you to start thinking about this, because right now we're just priming the way you think about money. That way, when you understand what to do with your money, you'll know why you're making these decisions with your money. And the last thing that I want you to do before you go to the next lesson is, I want you to share your thoughts on this in the community. I want you to share what your goals are in the community, because you need to hold yourself and other people accountable. That's going to help you reach your financial goals sooner, because when you write down your goals, well, now you're holding yourself accountable. So go to the community and share now, where are you? Are you B, I, C? And how are you going to become either a B or an I? How are you going to become a business owner? How are you going to become an investor?